victorious ones have said. That emptiness is the relinquishing of all views. For whomever emptiness is a view, that one has accomplished nothing. We can now return to this verse with more of Nagarjuna's analysis available. For the practitioner who directly realizes emptiness, nothing is present to consciousness but emptiness itself. For such a consciousness, there literally is no object, since there is in such a consciousness no reification of the kind that gives rise to subject-object duality. Moreover, since such a consciousness is directed only upon what can be found ultimately to exist, and since nothing can be so found, there is literally nothing toward which such a consciousness can be directed. But this very fact is what is ostended by the dictum that emptiness is itself empty. Emptiness is not the real object as opposed to the unreal objects of ordinary perception, not the object that appears when false appearance is shed. In fact, to the extent that it appears as an object at all, it does so as falsely as any table. If so, the best we can then say is that from such a standpoint the words emptiness is empty ascribe no property to any object at all. From that standpoint, there is no view to be expressed, where a view is something that can be given assertoric voice. For a view is possible if, and only if, 1, there is something to view, and 2, there is some way in which it is viewed.
That is, first, if it were possible to have a true view about emptiness, emptiness would have to be a thing and object of awareness. But if we suppose that it is, a dilemma emerges. Emptiness must then exist either conventionally or ultimately. The latter, as we have seen, is impossible, since then it would fail itself to be empty, and not only would a central tenet of Madhyamaka philosophy be contradicted, but the remainder would be rendered incoherent as well. But positing emptiness as a conventional existent and as the object of a correct view is no better, for things that appear conventionally appear as entities, as phenomena that exist independently and substantially. And all such appearance is, from the standpoint of Madhyamaka, in an important sense, false appearance. To put this point another way, true predication is always predication from a perspective in which the subject of the predicate exists and within which the predicate can be instantiated. For conventional entities, the conventional standpoint provides such a perspective. But for emptiness, neither the conventional or the ultimate standpoint can do the job. In the conventional standpoint, there is no emptiness. In the ultimate standpoint, there are no entities at all.
Now let us consider the second entailment, that concerning the manner in which emptiness would need to be viewed. Views are views of things under descriptions and, hence, are views of things as having some nature. I view this paper, as white, as a bearer of print, as a product of a tree, and so forth. And again, so long as I am characterizing a conventional entity as it is viewed from the conventional perspective, there is no problem here. But when we attempt to extend this analysis to emptiness itself, problems arise. For the attribution of properties, descriptions under which things can be viewed again requires the existence of the substrata and the possibility of their serving as property bearers, as well as the dualism between substratum and property this presupposes. The perspective from which this continued existence and this dualism are available is the conventional perspective, for it is only conventions that bring ontology into play. But again, in that perspective, we don't find emptiness, we find all kinds of entities, but we find them as entities and, hence, as non-empty. But from the perspective in which we find emptiness, we don't find any entities or any characteristics, not even emptiness itself or the fact of its emptiness. Hence again, since we can't view emptiness even as empty, in view of its very emptiness, we can't have a view of emptiness. This point is made pithily in a verse quoted by Nagarjuna in his auto-commentary to the Vigrahavya Vartani. By their nature, the things are not a determinate entity. For they have only one nature, i.e. no nature, Astasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutra.
This reading of the concluding verse, and by implication of the related verses we have noted, particularly 13:8, would not entail any self-refutation or any denial of the need at the conventional level for the assertion of Buddhist doctrine or the critique articulated by Nagarjuna in Mulamadhyamaka. On the contrary, this interpretation would be consistent with the raft metaphor popular in Buddhist philosophy. One discards the raft after one has crossed the river. It would be foolish to continue to carry it overland. Similarly, Buddhist teachings are soteriological in intent and are to be discarded after their goal has been attained. Or the laxative metaphor of the Ratnakuta Sutra mobilized by Candrakirti in his comments on 13:8 and Sextus, one wants the medicine to be expelled along with the pathogenic bowel contents, used to discourage grasping even to the Dharma. Hence Nagarjuna acknowledges that, having announced in the dedication that nothing can be said truly about the final nature of things and having defended this thesis exhaustively in the text, his words and those of the Buddha cannot even be taken as literally true about the final nature of things. Hence, in order to realize that nature, one must relinquish even a literal, non-ostensive reading of these texts. One must realize the ultimate truth dependent upon the conventional, but abandon all of these necessarily conventional designations as characterizations of an ultimate nature that is ultimately uncharacterizable. The anticipation of Wittgenstein's close of the Tractatus is remarkable. 6. My propositions serve as elucidations in the following way: anyone who understands me eventually recognizes them as nonsensical, when he has used them as steps to climb beyond them. He must, so to speak, throw away the ladder after he has climbed up it.
7. What we cannot speak about we must pass over in silence. Nagarjuna may well have intended, and of course we have no way of knowing what he intended, nor would it make much difference to interpretation at this point, both readings the standard reading at the conventional level, according to which the truth of his own standpoint contrasts with all other false views, and this latter reading at the ultimate level, at which his own view must itself be seen as a merely conventional ostension of an ineffable ultimate truth. And if the doctrine of the two truths and their identity is correct, these readings are mutually entailing. To assert from the conventional standpoint that all phenomena are empty and that all views according to which they are not are to be relinquished is to recognize from the ultimate standpoint that there are no phenomena to be empty and that no view attributing any characteristic to anything can be maintained. Even the emptiness of emptiness is empty. May whatever merit has been achieved through this work and through its study be dedicated to the liberation of all sentient beings from cyclic existence.